Okay, welcome back to The Horror with Mike.
And Nate.
On this episode, we're going into the final True Detective Season 2, Episode 8 of 8. It is over. It is done with. What did we think? Nate.
Well, this was a super-sized episode, 90 minutes, which is...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Which is as long as a movie.
Right.
And, honestly, I guess my first thought was that if this entire season had been a 90-minute or 2-hour-long movie, they just kept the good stuff and filtered out everything else.
Right.
It could have been great. This episode was 50-50. At points, I really liked it. Ultimately, though, it has to be judged on not only how good this episode was, but how good a finale it was for everything that came.
Sure.
How well does it wrap up the story? One of the first things it does is it solves the Ben Casper case.
Right. Yeah, it does do that.
A super prolonged, in detailed, retelling of events of what happened with the two kids during the riots and their parents were executed, and then all these years later there's this conspiracy. They really do their best to be honest and spell everything out, but it's just too much.
Yeah. Did you notice, by the way, that the girl, did she look familiar?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, she was in Unfriended. She was the one who dies in her laundry room.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, so go on with this. We find out Crowhead and shit like that. So.
Yeah, and ultimately that ends up being pretty easy. They just walk up to the house and oh, there's the Crowhead. There's all the evidence.
There's the shotgun. There's literally the bullets that say rubber bullets. There's the computer. There's this.
And
there's
the
that.
sister.
And
tied
there's
up
the
in
sister
other room.
waiting to do nothing else but tell you everything you need to know.
Hi. The sister's name happens to be Exposition. She fills in all the blanks, and as I, one of the few things I predicted that came true was that, in hella detail, they solved the one part of this season, this case, that we didn't care about. And then Velcoro, Colin Farrell, just wants to flip the kid and use him to bring down the conspiracy.
Right.
So that at least is kind of a tie-in to that.
Mm-hmm.
They covered a lot of ground. There were everybody's final fate was given into. There wasn't time to mourn Taylor Kitsch. It seemed like his death would have been a bigger deal.
Yeah.
But they just had so much ground to cover. It came across, like you pointed out last week. Colin Farrell gets the call from Taylor Kitsch saying, "Dude, I'm going to this meeting. I'm probably going to die." And Colin Farrell's like, yeah, man, bummer.
Dude, he's
Let's
like,
bang.
no, I've got a bad plot twist I have to set up. I'll see you later.
And then, they find out he's dead the next morning, and, oh, bummer. Well, what do we do about the Ben Casper case, So I didn't like that. I just actually, the hits just keep on coming. I will get around to the shit that I did like.
Oh, so we're talking about the shit we didn't like? You might want to get to what you did like, because that'd be a better place to start, I think. I think it was technically well made, technically well directed. The action scenes were really good.
Yes, it
the
looked
score,
great.
The acting was all pretty top notch, give or take. I'll give everyone credit for what they had to work with. Acting was all good. So yeah, technically and acting wise, good episode.
Everybody on board, and I can say this for the whole season, for the most part, everybody gave it their all. It was just what they were given to work with. The showrunner, the writer, the architect of this entire season. Virtually all the problems I had with it go back to him, to that basic, basic storytelling techniques.
Yeah, it was all just wrong. So as we're talking episode specific, this episode wasn't overly bad.
No, it wasn't.
Until it wrapped itself up. Now, there were parts, like any episode, that I could give or take, da-da-da-da-da-da. This was probably the second best episode, but, you can't just judge it how it is. You have to judge it as a final.
Right.
And you definitely cannot judge it without the last 15 minutes. So, it takes it down. But it was a pretty good episode before all that, with Vince Vaughn and Colin Farrell fucking storming that place and shooting motherfuckers.
That was gangster.
That was badass.
And that is when this season has excelled.
Mm-hmm.
Is they just charge forward and stop trying to be cool and get into a little bit of action.
Yeah.
And them storming the compound and executing a bunch of dudes and making off with the money was
and
terrific.
I might eventually, if I even bother to ever watch the show or think about it again, appreciate this episode more. But for right now, its flaws were just too much. And I can't congratulate it for its violence, basically, is one of the few things that I'm talking about right now. But like when Colin Farrell's shooting motherfuckers in the trees and shit, like there's some really good action coverage where it's like he turns that corner, it's over his shoulder, and you see him from a distance shoot the guy like 3 times in the head. Like that was well CGI, like surprisingly.
It's nailed all of its action sequences.
Yeah, it was
the
very
whole season,
good. Yeah, all that was very good. So yeah, I was really engaged in it, and I thought it was a really good episode
until we get into the final act.
So do we want to cover more of it before we get into the final act?
No, I mean, not particularly.
It was just good.
Yeah, it was good. It was solid. It was compelling. And I've already talked about, like, the super heavy plot stuff, which they got out of the way quickly. And, and they've done this the last couple of episodes. They cover a lot of ground quick, and it's sort of confusing, and it doesn't sink all in, but it's like, okay, we'll just go with this. It sounds like it makes sense. At least they're trying to explain stuff.
Yeah.
Now,
well, actually, that's real quick. That's one of the tricks to this series. Is why I feel bad not reviewing it. Is maybe it all does make sense, and it is really good if you could sift through the fucking convoluted ass plot, which could have been what he was doing because he's like, oh, look how many people looked into season 1. Let me really like hide shit because people will look for it.
It is. After you finish listening to this review, you can check out our review of the season, where I'll go into the James Ellroy connection a lot. But
oh yeah,
the plotting and a lot of the story beats, and particularly the explanation at the end, is very, very, very LA Confidential. Like the not necessarily the movie, but the original book.
Yeah. As far as the convoluted ass plot though goes, somebody said, I think it was Simon Barrett on Twitter, was like, oh, so cool. It turned out the True Detective 2 had the exact same plot of Inherent Vice. At least I think so.
Right.
It's just like, I couldn't even do Inherent Vice. And that was an hour, 2 hours, whatever, give or take.
It was
I couldn't even fucking do it.
30 minutes.
I couldn't do it. As good as the performances, I couldn't do it. And I had to sit through fucking 8-9 hours.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I have no doubt that all of that elaborate plotting holds up. If you care enough to go back
and that's what he hopefully learned this season, is you can go deep, but you have to make people care on the surface first. Which, the whole Greek thing, I know that that's a sub thing, and it only makes more sense as we realize that the whole thing's a Greek tragedy.
I guess that's how it was conceived, because
Well, the one chick's name is literally like Athena.
Yeah, and Antigone.
Fucking A, man.
Yeah. It all is capped off Greek tragically. And I guess that makes sense. It was ordained. He knew at the beginning, when he was writing it, who was going to die and who was going to live. And so they die. Not because it makes sense, but just because it feels like they have to die. Colin Farrell is being tracked by the conspiracy guys, and he's trying to desperately record a voicemail message to his son. There are 100 things that he could have tried, and instead he drives out into the woods. Obviously it's to echo his dream sequence from earlier in the season.
Echo?
But,
Jesus.
There was no reason for him to drive out in the middle of the woods and engage these guys in a firefight.
No, it's seriously, when he was running through the woods, I'm like, hurry, Colin Farrell, you have to get to your dad's premonition.
Yeah.
Like, where else are you fucking going, dude?
So that just, it made no sense. So Hugh, I sort of assumed he was going to die anyway.
I knew he was going to die the second he turned off to go see his little boy. And, everybody has their moment where they fuck up.
I mean, in previous episodes, I pretty much assumed he was doomed.
No, I didn't.
Anyway. But you got to make it mean something. And this was just like, oh, well, I'm dying because it's my time to die in the plot.
No, he even says, I was like, it was very stressful for me. So I'll give it that. It was well edited, directed score that I kept pausing those individual sequences because I was like, I don't want him to die. I can't take this shit. I can't take it. I seriously, over and over, I had to pause it. It took me like fucking 4 hours to watch the episode. But it was like right before he died, I knew this was the moment because it's like, hey, where what's the Rachel Mc? I still don't know Rachel McAdams' character's name. God, that should tell you. I literally didn't remember. But he's like, "Where's Deserides?" And he's like, "She's in a better place." And it's like, "Oh, there we go." That's his reason, quote unquote, is by now doing his final stand, he's protecting her. Bull fucking shit.
So there's bullshit part 1 on the ending. Bullshit part 2 is exactly the same as bullshit part 1, only with Vince Vaughn. He's been making all these moves, and then he just dies because this is his fate.
Yeah, seriously.
To just die. You had the idea that the guy who he yanked out all his teeth might
right.
be the one to come back. That would have
been lame, but it would have been better.
It would have been a little bit more satisfying, other than just some random cartel guy. Once again, Vince Vaughn, my respect for him has gone up over the season because it's almost a Herculean effort to carry this weak writing for his character. And he dies just like Colin Farrell because it's in the script. He has to die. It doesn't really make sense. It's not satisfying.
And they try to make it interesting, but it's just, who cares?
Yeah.
Exactly. One, who cares? And two, it's like, he dies because somebody wants his suit. And like, he fights back. His old street fighting days come out at the wrong time, and then he's plagued by it as he's going to die. And like, he just randomly gets stabbed by some dude. Didn't work. And tried to be poetic and all these things, didn't work. The thing is I wonder if most people maybe forgot episode 3. And maybe it's just me, because I do still think episode 3 with Fred Ward was the best, by far, the best sequence in this whole series. So maybe it's just me who like constantly knew and remembered those lines. You're so small. You're running through the trees. They look like giants. Blah, blah, blah. They shoot you to pieces. I mean, you didn't forget about that, did you?
No.
It's like fucking beat by beat. It's not foreshadowing. It's not even a fucking metaphor. He's in the redwoods, so they literally are huge trees, and he's dwarfed by them. Everything they told you in episode 2 how he was going to fucking die. This is fucking bullshit. I did.
Yeah. Colin Farrell's death, bullshit 1. Vince Vaughn's death, bullshit 2.
And that's not even getting into Rachel McAdams.
Well, and now we're moving on to bullshit 3.
Holy shit.
Which, something that, pat myself on the back, I called it.
Oh, God.
The two leads had sex one time, and so, of course, she got pregnant, and then to honor
damn
it. The dead Colin Farrell, she has the baby. So we jump forward, I guess a year.
It's a year.
Something like that. Deserides, Rachel McAdams, and Colin Farrell's wife, looking grungy.
No, Vince Vaughn's wife.
Yeah, that's what I meant. And Vince Vaughn's wife, they're on the run down in South America. The one little thing that I thought was cool was that Vince Vaughn's right-hand man, he tasks with watching over the wife, and it's a year later and he's still there doing it.
Yeah, that's kind of sweet.
I was like, that was probably the most interesting character moment in the episode.
Almost in the series.
And
that's a better arc than fucking Vaughn had.
And then Deserides reaches out to the journalist that Ray had beat up in the first episode to give him all the information about the conspiracy so that he could blow it wide open. And that's it. And then they just kind of walk off.
They walk off in slow motion looking like badasses, but they look like fucking beat soccer moms, like dragging, screaming. Even that visual wasn't good looking. Like, I was like, you guys are way the fuck off on everything here. I hated that because, one, I don't like you to be right. I really did not want you to be right about that one. That is fucking terrible.
Yeah, it's so weak.
Oh, God. Oh, fuck, I hated that so fucking much. Rachel McAdams in general, what fucking bullshit this was. Like, she's the third lead, and you gave her nothing to do but be the Jerry Bruckheimer, Michael Bay. There's a thing in every Jerry Bruckheimer, Michael Bay movie where the girlfriend wife has to watch the men do stuff from a control room and cry about it the whole time. Think about it, The Rock. I mean, it's in all of them.
Yeah.
She gets regulated to the fucking Michael Bay woman from 95.
Your 3 male leads, not only do they
How
die...
fucking disrespectful.
But they die in combat. They die fighting for a goal. The
She
two
is there
primary female
to have
characters
babies.
survive by running away.
And
having
exist for no other reason than to have babies and carry out a man's legacy.
Yeah.
This is fucking bull. I'm not even a fucking feminist.
I'm
and
not
shit.
a feminist either.
This is bullshit.
but
And
sometimes
if you are
it's like,
slightly
really?
angry, be angry because that's fucking bullshit. And it negate her whole storyline was useless at this point. Then it might as well have been the fucking chick with the cut up face. If Rachel McAdams' only thing, because nothing got resolved. Her dad didn't come back. Nothing came back. Her partner thing didn't come back. Her molesting thing didn't add up to anything. They don't even come back to her really about the security guard. Other than that's why she has to run away. She had no function other than to have a fucking bad plot twist.
Yeah.
But I did like, in theory, the idea of how nihilistic the ending was. Being that the first season had a surprise optimistic ending. I really liked the pessimism of the ending, but it was too much pessimistic stuff on top of each other.
Yeah.
Like, I really, really did not like seeing Colin Farrell die. Like, I do not think that was in service of the character at all. He deserved a happy ending. Oh, which I called his fucking fat redhead kid actually being his.
Yeah.
Oh, how sweet. That is actually sweet. I'll give the show that. I did. Even though I called it, I still liked it. Which shows, just because you point something out does not mean it's bad. In context. But
So,
no.
yes, overall, a 90-minute episode, and let's say 60 to 70 of those minutes were pretty good. But that final, 15 or 20 minutes was so abrasively wrong.
Contrived.
And I can't even say it was bad, because technically it was shot very well, but it was just, it was wrong.
It's
it was
wrong.
The wrong
It's
ending
wrong.
to this story, which turns out was not a great story.
Nope.
So, story, meh. Characters, written meh, but performed pretty damn well. And then it literally, all the wheels fell off at the end.
And the thing, somebody else said this, true. Vince Vaughn's desert walk is symbolism for every single person who sat through all 8 hours of this fucking show.
I can't disagree with that.
We're just stuck bleeding, being like, no, I can't give up. It's going to be worth something. And then it's all just big cock tease and someone ate your fucking balls. Buzzards ate your balls off 6 episodes ago. And you have to look back and see your fucking body.
If I was judging this episode just as I judged episode 5 or episode 7, I would probably go as high as 5.
No, I was going to, I give it a 5 because I do, technically, very well made episode. It is very well made, and I could see watching it again just for its technical whatever. Nope.
Yeah.
As a story, the story is like a 2.
A 2.
So it levels it to a 5. Fucking terrible, terrible story. Terrible ending. We can do that, right? That's in context of this episode. Terrible
Definitely.
ending.
Terrible ending for this episode, and since this is the last episode, it's just a terrible ending. And the longer view you take of it, I think the worse it gets. Alright, so this is our review for the final episode of True Detective.
In general,
Yeah,
we ain't
and-
coming back after this episode.
You know what?
I mean, after
all
this
that
season.
matters is how many people watched it.
No, I mean they
And-
they will at least, I would assume, get another
Yeah.
season out of it.
Absolutely.
Should they?
Now, I know that ratings were down 20-25% from season 1, but this is still a money-making show, and it inspires thousands of people, including idiots like us, to keep watching it and talking about it.
Yeah.
And then idiots like you to listen to us talking about it. So,
Yeah, pretty much.
So they're definitely getting a 3rd season, but...
What I think they should do with it is get rid of fucking Nick Pizzato. Like, maybe you can come back after 4, after you've been in jail for a little bit. But what they should do is they should do like season 1. Fuck it. If you're going to give it to him again, that's just as much, if not more, of a risk than going out finding one writer and one director and having them make a synergized 8 episodes again.
yes. So,
That's half the thing, I think, too, that made True Detective so exciting. The first one is, it's like, all the other greatness aside, one writer, one director, one vision through 8 episodes, and it didn't feel like a movie cut in 8 pieces either.
It did.
We'll do a how we do how we would do it. True Detective season 3,
Yeah.
possibly season 4, because you already. But we'll figure it out. Anyway, so you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Frightflix, or
Nateflix. And as I said, you're done with this one, click over, listen to our review of the previous episodes, or our much shorter than this one, I promise you, overview, scathing critique of all of season 2.